we contacted their office, and he gave the consent to coming to Press Club of Jammu for 1 hour with the interaction with the media people. And most of the media people, they are here, even though the time is very crucial for us. This is the time for the media people to work. Some of our students from Gandhi Memorial College of Education, journalism course students, they are also here, and we invited them, and we invited the Central University journalism students also to participate. They are on the way, they may be coming here. I don't think that I have to introduce Bob in Jammu and Kashmir. Everybody must be knowing about, he is a friend of society, he is a friend of India, that too a friend of Jammu and Kashmir people. Yesterday, informal talk with him, we were discussing about what is happening in worldwide, the role of UK, US, our country, and there is a problem everywhere. We have neighbors, there is a problem. We have a problem with Pakistan and India over Kashmir, but even then there is a problem within the Pakistan also. I was discussing about him these things about the role of US and UK. He was young when he was a student leader, how he came in the politics, he struggled, and from councillor to that member of assembly in UK, then now he's a parliament member. And there are a number of people in UK, they take the stand of India, but India says about, there was some lobbying in UK, but there was no lobbying from our side, Indian side. But no, some people have started there in Jammu, from Jammu also, from Kashmir also. They are lobbying in the international conferences. But 20 years back, so when our friends from Kashmir, they were going there, they were telling me that nothing is happening from our side in at international fora. But the activities has started, and India is rebutting things. The misinformation is also going there. Different things are going, and the media, how the media is playing a role. Media is independent in Jammu and Kashmir. You must have seen whatever we are talking about. Neighbors, newspapers, or the television, they are taking these products from us. We are the journalists who are giving products to them. Either we are television journalists or the print media people. We are publishing these stories and they are picking these stories. So there is no dearth of news in Jammu Kashmir. Jammu Kashmir is a gold mine for news. I have seen for the last 35 years how it develops, how 90 started. International journalists were working here. Still the journalists are working here, but the international media, how they played the role, and no, at this moment, very less people are in international media, in particular in Jammu and Kashmir. I have worked with the AFP for 15 years. There was a news from Jammu and Kashmir, but there is no international media. The wire service has gone, AP has gone, AFP has gone. BBC has a little things here. Most of the international media has finished here, and only the professional journalists, they are on the ground. Otherwise, everything is gone. So these things we will ask, because it is a privilege for us, for students also, for we people also. Let us have an interaction with him. Let us have a think what is the role of UK about Jammu and Kashmir. Where is the terrorism is going? what the international community is thinking about the terrorism. Who are the people who are supporting, like the Afghanistan, what happened in Afghanistan, what is happening in USSR. These things we can ask him, and I don't think we should take more time. And I will just request Mr. Bob will be sitting there, and whosoever is asking, just introduce himself and then shoot him a question, but it should be small question, no lengthy question, and he will reply to it. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to come along and address you and to deal with your questions in as direct a manner as we possibly can. Just by way of introduction, I represent a constituency called Harrow East in northwest London. It is a constituency of 72,000 voters, so small by Indian standards for parliamentary elections, but that's the average size in the United Kingdom for a Member of Parliament. What makes my seat unique is that we have people from every country on the planet, every religion under the sun, and every language spoken on earth is spoken within my constituency. So we are a melting pot for the future. It is also the safest London borough to live in and work in. Crime is the lowest in Harrow compared to any other London borough. So it demonstrates that people can live side by side despite their origins or their beliefs. Equally, I've grown up in the company of Indians over my lifetime, because Indians first came to northwest London back in the early 1970s when I was at school, and I grew up and I had many personal friends right across the Indian community. In my constituency, 40% of the voters are of Indian origin. Almost all of them are from the state of Gujarat. So you can see that I have a long and deep involvement with India. Equally, as was said, I was a student leader. I was head boy at my school. I became president of my students' union at university, and I was on the student union executive for 4 years. Every year I was at college. After I ceased my studies and started work, I became a councillor in the London Borough of Brent, and I was a councillor for 24 years, served as 20 years as Conservative Group Leader, 6 years as Leader of the Council, 4 years as Deputy Leader, and 10 years in opposition. So I know what both is like. Equally, I served on the Greater London Assembly, representing Brent and Harrow in critiquing the work of the Mayor. So I was elected in May 2010 as an MP and held my seat with an increased majority in May 2015. So once again, I have a long history in politics. I first started speaking about Jammu and Kashmir in 1991 when we held a conference, a major conference at Brent Town Hall of more than 500 people, where we raised the plight of the Kashmir Pandits and the genocide that took place in Kashmir. So from then on, I have been saying the same messages in many ways, and now I repeat them in Parliament and as we go out. The key here is that despite all this long history and association with India, this is actually my first visit to India, and as part of it, I wanted to make sure that I came to Jammu and Kashmir as part of that first visit. Having spoken about it for so long, it's great to be able to see it. I start from the principle that the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the entirety of the state, is part of India, an integral part of India, and it should be reunited together with the rest of India. And when you start with that principle, then everything else, in my view, flows from that. So you're quite right, Mr. President, when we talk about combating terrorism, and we should call it terrorism, because that's what it is, threats to people's lives and the rule of law. So, once again, we hear in the West far too often from one side, the pro-Pakistani view, and we don't hear the Indian side of the argument. I am one of those, and very few MPs in Parliament, who speak up and promote the Indian side of the argument, and I have to say the just side of the argument. We were very fortunate in November to have the first visit from Sri Narendra Modi as Prime Minister of India to the UK. I was very pleased and very proud to be present in the audience when he made his great oration to the House of Lords and House of Commons combined, and also to be one of a select few that took him round the House of Commons on a tour, including to the House of Commons terrace, to show him the most exclusive club in the world. I know this is an exclusive club, Mr. President, but the House of Commons terrace is even more exclusive, because not only do you have to be elected to be there, but it is a wondrous site on the banks of the Thames, and in a cold November evening, I don't think Narendra Modi really appreciated the great beauty that there was, but we can only really celebrate at the height of summer in the UK, so for about 3 days. So that we then had the great event at Wembley Stadium, which I grew up in the shadow of Wembley Stadium, where Narendra Modi spoke for an hour and a half, and we turned Wembley into a little India for the day. And that was a tremendous experience. And 65,000 people from the Indian diaspora came in to Wembley Stadium to listen enraptured with Narendra Modi's words. And his words then, I think, are key to the argument that we're putting. And that is that he wants to turn India into the economic powerhouse of the East and wants to translate what he achieved in Gujarat for the rest of India. He clearly wants to make sure that Jammu and Kashmir is part of that great explosion of economic improvement and that everyone benefits from it. Now, I've been here, I arrived on Friday in New Delhi and then came to Srinagar and stayed for 2 days, 2 days, 1 night, and I met many, many people from Kashmir. The people that are young lawyers, that are potentially going to be young leaders in the future, people from the various different voluntary organisations that actually can make a huge difference in the activities, people from the Chamber of Commerce who have brilliant ideas about how Kashmir can develop, both for tourism, for power generation, for agriculture, for trade, for investment, and beyond. And we all agreed, and I think we all do agree, that the key here is there must be safety and security so that people that choose to invest their money in Kashmir know that they're not going to be threatened by terrorism. Because otherwise they can take their money somewhere else and invest it somewhere else, and Kashmir will lose out. Now, of course, we saw the great beauty of Kashmir, the Switzerland of the East. I've had the opportunity of visiting 2 Hindu temples, one here. There are many temples. I know in the city of Jammu there are many. Yes, the city of temples, there are many. And a temple in Kashmir, so in Srinagar. So we have had the opportunity of seeing the temples at first hand and seeing the beauty of what is being developed. We've had the opportunity as well of meeting many people from Kashmir and now many people from Jammu. I've had the opportunity of going to the University of Jammu and speaking to the students and answering their questions, as well as being with the Dogra community. And I apologise for the fact we're late, but their hospitality was tremendous, and so much so that we ended with having to eat something very quickly before we left, as one does. But everywhere I've been, I mean, I see people that want to cooperate. We know that this state has people from all religions, from Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, Jews, Christians, Buddhists, and a whole range of other religions. People from all sorts of backgrounds, from people that have lived together for centuries. And the key, I think, that I can see is that we have to create the position of trust. We have to create the position where minorities are not only tolerated, but actually celebrated and protected, so that whatever your religion, whatever your belief, whatever your way of life, then you can ensure that it is sacred and you can celebrate. And people should not feel threatened because of their religion or their background. So I think there's an opportunity, a tremendous opportunity for economic investment, for growth, for tourism, and for the interchange of ideas. I take the view that it is not for the United Kingdom to interfere in bilateral arrangements between India and Pakistan. That is for India and Pakistan to resolve their differences. But I also take the view that Britain's relationship with India should be a special relationship on a par with that the United Kingdom enjoys with the United States of America. And that means both in terms of economic development, in terms of defence, and in terms of taking a strong stance against terrorism, however it manifests itself, that we should stand shoulder to shoulder with India in that regard. I've said, Mr. President, that, and Prime Minister Cameron has repeated this, that we want to see India having a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council and India fulfilling its potential in the world. We want to build on the friendship that we've enjoyed over centuries and extend the hand of friendship and support. We need India to be outward-looking, to be media-savvy. And if I can say that to media people, you'll understand. What I mean is that the propaganda from the enemy is at the moment winning the day. So therefore, what we must do is change the rhetoric and the language and the reporting in the West of the true position in this particular part of the world. I'll stop there and answer any of your questions that you have. I will finally say that not only are we a true friend of India, but David Cameron, my Prime Minister, my leader, has been to India on more occasions than any other country, apart from his trips to Brussels. And I can assure you he'd much rather come to India than go and visit Belgium. And there is hardly a week goes by without a minister from the UK government visiting India. Now, when I said I was coming to India on my first visit and said I was coming to Jammu and Kashmir, my Foreign and Commonwealth Office tried to discourage me. But I was determined to come, and here I am. And I'm very glad that I'm here. I'm very pleased, proud and privileged to be with you. And I hope that where I have trodden initially, many, many others will follow in my footsteps. Thank you very much. I would accuse, I'm an individual. I don't speak on behalf of my government and the government I'm proud to support. But I can tell you that the Prime Minister, David Cameron, says quite openly that Britain stands shoulder to shoulder with India in combating terrorism, be it international terrorism or domestic terrorism. But it is not our role to interfere. Equally, we have you're quite right, we clearly have a problem with Pakistan. One of the issues, and it's one of the issues, is who exactly is in charge of Pakistan, and can they actually control what is going on within their own borders and across their borders. Clearly, India has been the victim of terrorism from Pakistan on several occasions. It's not just a small number, it's numerous occasions. And clearly, what we would seek to do, I think, is to make sure that we cooperate and assist India in combating this terrorism. Now, clearly, as a country that is historically part of the Empire and now part of the Commonwealth, one of the issues that we have to do is to put to Pakistan their responsibilities as a nation to actually control their own borders and to control the people that live within Pakistan. That is part and parcel of their responsibility, but it's not for me to say what 10 Downing Street and beyond should say. I will do my best in lobbying the case for India and for the special relationship that I talk about with India. It is for others, it's more senior in government, to actually put the point of view, sir, as you suggest. But as I say, I can't speak on behalf of the government. And much as I would like to, I must be clear that I speak as an individual, and I do my best in putting India's case and making sure that that is heard loud and clear in Parliament. What we have to do is make sure that others speak up equally on behalf of India. Otherwise it becomes a minority argument, and unfortunately India gets a bad press in the West because of the propaganda machine that is rolled out by Pakistan and other such forces. Okay. One of the problems we face is that the pro-Pakistani diaspora is very, very good and very effective in lobbying members of Parliament. And to be fair, members of Parliament have to address issues right across the international scene, national scene and local scene. So they have little time to study these matters for themselves. So when they hear from their voters about the position in Kashmir, then they tend to believe it. And that's the problem that we face. What I would seek to, and I would hope I would enlist your help and assistance, is that the Indian diaspora, who are tremendously successful in the United Kingdom, they're professionals, they run businesses, they've made fortunes, they believe in education, they're the most law-abiding citizens of all, they are entrepreneurs, they don't depend on benefits, they give to the state, they don't take. I would seek all of those people to start lobbying for India and speaking to their MPs to actually make sure that their MPs speak up for them. And in many ways, I can tell you that the Indian vote, the Indian diaspora, the vote was taken for granted by one political party. We have changed that. We have turned this around, and now the majority of the Indian diaspora will now vote for my party, and I think increasingly so as the years go by, because people recognise that actually the party I represent stands up for them, not only in terms of the economics, the legal issues, but also on the international issues. But it's important, I think, that the Indian diaspora in the UK and India as a government and as a force speaks up on its own behalf, so that I and others that are friends of India can be supported by others.
Mr. Bob, I am...
Thank you for your question. I'm not here to attack Pakistan or the Pakistani government. I'm not here to interfere in the process of bilateral discussion between India and Pakistan. That's not my role. What I can do is say I want Britain to be speaking up and speaking out on behalf of India, being ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with India. I would simply say that India needs to do its bit by making sure that the world's media actually understands the true position rather than reflecting a propaganda position put forward by Pakistan. And I think that correcting that position is the starting point, because India is quite clearly a secular country where people of all religions can celebrate their own religion. There are tensions, we know, but anyone can celebrate their own religion. Minorities are protected. Unfortunately, I repeatedly see this in Pakistan, minorities are not protected in Pakistan, and we hear it in Parliament all the time. So we have to speak out and speak up. We are not the policemen of the world. That's not our role. Well, our role is to use our diplomatic power, our soft diplomatic power, to actually create an opportunity for trade and investment and for peace in the world. Now, that does mean investing in defence, because you need to defend your own shores, you need to be able to defend your own interests. It does mean we in the United Kingdom are a trading nation. If we don't trade, then we don't exist. Simple as that. But what we don't want is is our whole process to be interfered with by terrorism from wherever it comes from. And so therefore, I condemn terrorism. My Prime Minister David Cameron condemns terrorism, and clearly we are combating that right across the world in many different spheres. So, if it comes down to it, what we need the evidence, we need the proof of what is happening, so that we can speak up and speak out on your behalf.
Arun Sharma ji. Yeah, good evening. I am Arun Sharma from India.
Thank you for your question. I can't speak about the situation in Pakistan other than to say we know that terrorism has been exported from Pakistan. We know that Al-Qaeda and other such organisations were clearly present in Pakistan, and it is very much for the Pakistani government and their army to control their people. And therefore, what we must make sure is there is no presence of state-sponsored terrorism taking place either in Kashmir or other parts of India. What we must do is make sure that Pakistan stands up for its responsibilities as a nation and as a government. Thank you.
And our good wishes conveyed to Prime Minister Cameroon also, and tell him that people of whole of the J&K state, it's a conglomerate, they are suffering, and please play a very progressive role in the matter.
Okay, well, can I say that clearly I wish Prime Minister Narendra Modi every success. He's been here, 4 times since his accession. And he's reached out the hand of friendship to Pakistan, both in terms of inviting his opposite number to his inauguration as Prime Minister, but also paid visits to Pakistan to try and get talks going to actually deal with this problem. But I think he's quite clear that the whole of the state should be recombined and should be part of Indian control. And it's quite clear that that is the aim, to create the environment in which investment can take place and people can start to see the benefits of that investment. But without peace in the area, then that investment won't come. So you're right that in terms of progress has been slow. As I've said, I can't speak on behalf of the United Kingdom government, but I think what we can say is that the United Kingdom stands ready to assist India in any shape or form that India requests. But our process is not to interfere. So if India wants help, wants assistance, then it needs to ask, and we shall do our best to ensure that whatever India wants can actually be delivered. But part and parcel of this is saying we stand ready to help, not to interfere.
Hi sir, my name is Ajay. I represent ABP News out here in Jammu.
Well, put it this way. I think my Prime Minister David Cameron put it right when he phoned Mr. Modi to congratulate him. And he said, my goodness, I feel humbled to address someone who is the leader of the largest democracy with a popular vote that I can only dream of. The reality is that Narendra Modi came to office with a majority government in India for the first time for so long that he comes with a huge swathe of goodwill, and he has set about in the first few months of his premiership going out to the world. He's visited so many countries to actually put India on the map and open up India. He has been around India. I don't know when he ever sleeps, because he's done a remarkable job in the first few months of his premiership. So it is early days, and clearly what people of India want to see is delivery of the improvements and changes. And therefore, what is very important is those that in India that obstruct the work of the government need to wise up to the fact that they will be condemned, not only in the press, I hope, but also at the ballot box if they slow down the opportunities that exist for the government to improve the economy and well-being of people. Now, in terms of intolerance, any growth, this is my first visit to India, so I can't compare this time with anywhere else. What I can say is that I think it's a great shame that the temples both in here and in Srinagar, have to be protected by the military from threat of terrorism. I think that's a great shame. I understand why it's happened, but it's a great shame. I would sooner that wasn't the case. But I can tell you, in the United Kingdom, synagogues and Jewish schools also have to be protected by police against threats of attacks. So, unfortunately, intolerance grows wherever you are, in many respects. One of the key aspects of ensuring tolerance happens is that people see there's a benefit to the changes that are happening, and that they all will benefit, not just a chosen few. And I think that's the key element that the Indian government has to deliver. And then, if there is a brand of intolerance, then actually that will go away, because people see that it won't matter which religion you are, what background you are, but you're all benefiting as a result of improvements to the economy and improvements to the job situation and the ability of people to fulfill their potential.
How far has been the United Kingdom able to solve the Kashmir issue, and how long is it going to take?
The position in Jammu and Kashmir has been going on since 1947, when Lord Mountbatten obviously signed the accession. And of course the Maharaja ceded to India Jammu and Kashmir, and we should recognise that. So we should start from the principle that that was the decision that the ruler of the state made on behalf of the people. So we start from that principle, and then the British departed. Now, it is not for Britain to interfere, as I've said, between the bilateral arrangements between India and Pakistan. That colonialism has long gone. What we can do is use our soft power, if called upon, to assist the powers that be to actually deliver Jammu and Kashmir in a peaceful state so that investment and growth can happen. And the opportunities are there. We want to get to a position whereby people that left the Kashmir Pandits feel that they can securely return if they choose to return. Those people that are still refugees should absolutely have the right to return, and quickly, because they have been left in a state of limbo. Others who have dispersed across the world will take a lot of persuasion, I would suggest, to come back, because they've made other places their homes. They've now invested in their lifetimes. So we have to create an environment in which people feel confident about the security position in Kashmir. So it's a case of, we're not interfering. You know, it's not my job to come here and tell you what to do. Far from it. But what I do, and the United Kingdom does, is offer the hand of friendship to say, we're here to help. What help do you need? So part and parcel of my visit is to find out the situation on the ground, talk to as many people as possible, and look for how we can assist in fulfilling the destiny and the future for this great state.
Yes, Mr. Tejinder.
Yeah, back home.
Let's be quite clear. Organisations such as ISIL, Daesh, are barbarous murderers. They have no way of behaving in a civilised manner whatsoever. The problem that we have in the United Kingdom is, yes, far too many young people have been radicalised. I have to say, I don't think we in Britain really understand why and what has been done to literally brainwash those individuals. Because these are young people that have been born in Britain, educated in Britain, yet become radicalised almost overnight, often when their families haven't got a clue what's happened to them. And then they depart off to Syria or Iraq to be part of this attempt to create a caliphate. And what we should understand is that groups like ISIL exist to create a caliphate, an Islamic state, right across North Africa and the Middle East. They have a dream that theirs will be the only way. And remember, these are people that say to people, you either convert to our version of Islam or we kill you. They rape women, they murder men, they murder children. We know that that's what goes on. Now, it's very difficult to deal with people like that. It's also equally difficult to understand. In the West, it's very hard for us to understand how young people can be brainwashed into supporting such a murderous and barbarous belief. It is done through social media. It is done by individuals who deliberately warp young people's minds. But what we have to understand is why that happens. I mean, I'm not clear that we know exactly what happens. We are making various different steps, both in terms of reducing radicalisation in mosques, seeking out the imams, seeking out the Muslim community, and asking them to say, look, you have to take responsibility here. It's not just the government, it's you must take responsibility for preventing radicalisation taking place in the first place. And the vast majority of British Muslims and Muslims across the world are peaceful people who want to live in peace and harmony and get on with their own lives. It is a small minority that wish to cause harm to others. Unfortunately, that small minority can have a very dramatic effect, as we know. So we have all sorts of programmes and procedures in the UK to try and combat this radicalisation. But as we know, it's not just the United Kingdom, it's not just in parts of Pakistan or even in India where this radicalisation is taking place. It is a mood across the world. And we're no nearer, I think, actually understanding why people become radicalised. All we do know is that we have to combat it, and we have to combat it fast before it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Generally female
I've said in answer to other questions, we would say, the United Kingdom, that Pakistan must face up to its responsibilities and prevent terrorism taking place across its borders or exporting it to other countries, including to Jammu Kashmir, including, of course, to other parts of India, where India has suffered from those terrorist attacks.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bab, very good evening to your good self. I am Harminder Singh from a leading Punjabi internationally circulated Punjabi paper, Ajit Punjabi, based in Punjab. First, I would like to ask one question from your good self. Your good self is well aware you have visited recently the Kashmir. Everybody knows that Kashmir is burning in fire of terrorism. Due to that terrorism, India and Pakistan are standing against each other at international borders, and due to that critical position, entire South Asia is threatened for their peace. But on the other hand, you have visited Kashmir, there are many people have suffered due to militancy and terrorism. But there is a micro minority, especially I would like to draw your kind attention toward the Sikhs residing in Kashmir. What is your opinion for the betterment of that micro minority in Kashmir? What you will advise to Government of India or Government of...
along with other minority communities in Jammu Kashmir, must be protected and given the opportunity to prosper and grow, as you do in the rest of India. What is equally important is that we understand that where terrorism takes root, everyone suffers. Every community. It's not just minority communities. It is every community that suffers as a result of terrorism. So what we have to do is to seek to combat terrorism wherever it rears its ugly head and make sure that it doesn't actually become the force for evil that dominates. Now that does mean that everyone has to face up to their responsibilities. It means that the majority communities must make sure that they drive out the terrorism and terrorists. And it does mean that people wake up to the fact that often the most serious crimes take place between different brands, between different sects of Islam. So that often Sunni and Shia are fighting each other, and there are other sections of Islam who also suffer. So the Sikh community, I think, has got a thriving future. I know that there are many Gurdwaras here as well in Jammu, so therefore there's an opportunity for people to live side by side and prosper. And clearly that we should make sure that the same thing is true in the other part of the state, in Kashmir.
I think I know that most of the industrialists from India, they are not interested to invest in Jammu and Kashmir because of terrorism. What do you think? How you think that the international community, in which sector they should contribute for Jammu and Kashmir so that the people, unemployment is there, thousands of youth, educated youths, they are on roadsides. They are roaming from one door to other door, but nobody is helping them. What do you think? Because you have visited.
The investment will only come if there's peace and a feeling of security. And I think what has to be done is to protect every citizen, but give every citizen a sense of purpose, be it education, be it job opportunities, be it the opportunities for tourism, for visitors, and for investors to feel confident that their investment will be money well spent rather than money wasted. Now, that is a twofold process. So we have to build confidence, we have to ensure the security is present, and make sure that together Jammu and Kashmir goes and prospers so that people are wanting to go there for tourism, that we use the agricultural facilities that already exist to export to the world, that we use the power generation opportunities there are to not just power Kashmir, but power Jammu and beyond, other parts of India, that we use the capability of other employment prospects to say to the young, in particular, look, the prospects are huge, but only if you turn your backs on terrorism, only if you welcome investors, only if you live side by side in peace and harmony, can we make this happen. It has to become, in my view, a popular feeling amongst the population that they want to live in peace and harmony, and that they all jointly condemn the terrorists who just bring misery to everyone.
Will increase the Kashmiri Pandit migrants will increase the religious gap.
Will increase the...
Will increase religious gap. Religious.
Oh, I see. Yes, clearly the exodus that's happened in 1990 created a position whereby a minority became a very small minority. And therefore the majority population, they drove out people that were able to provide a tremendous cement in the great house that Kashmir is. And it's clearly caused problems. Drive out people who have knowledge and excellence, then you've denuded your capability as a state to prosper and grow. So, by forcing people out against their will, it has created an environment